Today I'll be talking about Are You Next, Hybe's next girl group debut project, aka a survival show that has been creating a lot of buzz due to the recent unexpected results and frustrating process that occurred in the finale so suddenly, which by the way, I haven't seen ever before in a survival show within the K-pop scene. But before we dive into this, my rants, my concluding thoughts, and just how I feel about the final lineup coming from Are You Next, please note we do not tolerate any hate on this channel, and especially the comment section down below for Are You Next. Any hate that's geared towards the trainees or spewing of hate is gonna be filtered out. I feel like all of that should just be redirected to Hybe and B-Lift Labs. Like, if anything, it should be redirected to them due to the lack of transparency that we got leading up into the finale. Another thing to note is, based on my experience of various boy group, girl group survival shows, you name it, whether that be mix and match, whether that be idol school, news series, so on and so forth, I've seen it all. The evil editing by Mnet, the rigging, it has happened time and time again. And I feel like all of us should have low expectations going into any survival show. For first timers, that's fair. But personally, for me, I started with low expectations because Jiwoo's short moment of a clip really surprised me, and some of y'all recommended me this show, which led me into the show. And then I dug myself into a deep hole with the variety that was attached to the show, which was a huge plus side and positive to it. But let me bring up the true meaning behind Are You Next, which does not make sense to me. So in case you guys didn't know, Are You Next, Hybe's next girl group debut project, had the aim to create the agency's next global girl group. That's right, you heard it right here, and you're reading it right here. The agency's next global girl group. Let's be real here. Was this show truly global due to how they conducted things in the finale? No, this was definitely not the agency's next global girl group. This was definitely geared to the locals in Korea and for what Hybe ideally wanted at the end of the day, which honestly, in my humblest opinion, if you were asked me that they, made this group before the survival show, quite possibly everyone. And I feel like two reactions explain the finale of this show so perfectly, between Aiki on the left here and the man of the hour, Lee Hyun himself. In case you didn't know, he shaved before the finale. I don't know why, and all doesn't change anything how I feel about him most particularly. Notice how Aiki, she's very surprised, and if for those who watched the finale, she just wanted to go home, and at the same time, it seemed like she did not really like the final lineup as it was being announced, while Lee Hyun here, okay, who really prioritized and favorited the likes of Wonhee here, had this kind of reaction with Wonhee coming through and placing first place. We can discuss more about him later on. I don't really want to, because he was just been so frustrating in the last couple episodes leading into the finale, and the likes of Vincenzo and all. I just feel like also this was so annoying too. I feel like not being frustrated at the lineup is more important here, is just being more so frustrated with the group name that occurred here, and of course how they conducted the finale with the final lineup. So here we have it. It's
아일릿은 자주적이고 진취적인
Outlet.
의지의 아이
Outlet, everyone. Okay, we have L's up, we have Outlet, we have funny fandom names coming out. I just don't get it with the symbols. Even if they were to remove the symbol and the dash in Al It, I still wouldn't mess with this name. I just feel like there was a lack of thought process coming into this group name and all, and I just felt like you could have gotten the viewers to really vote on a group name that we would prefer out of the bunch. But I guess no labels are learning their lessons and they're just having it their way pretty much. Aside from that, everyone, this was the final lineup in the correct order. Wonhee in first place, Youngso following that, Minju, Iroha, Mocha, and Yuna. And for those who actually watched the show and not solely the performances, right? And regardless on either end, I feel like everyone's surprised by the end-all result here for this final lineup for Alid. I still can't take this girl group name seriously and all. This was nowhere near to what was in terms of the interim votes, and I'm pretty sure at the end of the day, we can all agree, everyone, that 6 spots was not damn near enough considering the talent that we've seen on this show and how close-knit it was. And I think that's just due to how it was. It was very close-knit, 22 trainees. They could only have 6 spots, but you could have a 7th spot or an 8th spot or a second girl group coming out of this, or even a Japanese girl group in the next couple of years after this show, in my humblest opinion, everyone. So once this was announced, everyone, I felt very indifferent. This was not the best possible result, in my humblest opinion, and it was due to some ridiculous decision-making and determination, which was explained here. 2 members will be chosen through fan votes, while 4 members will be chosen through the label pick, the company's choice. What was the point, everyone, of having us to vote on a daily basis for our favorited, ideal girl group versus the label, right? And the 2 members that will be chosen through the fan votes, it became very obvious how it resulted, and then the 4 members just made the whole group surprising as a whole in terms of the results. And don't even get me started. Before they were explaining this, and as well as the ratio I'm talking about, we had the likes of Vincenzo describing it. I felt like they shouldn't have described this at all. Just hearing how this was conducted was so frustrating. Unless it was the best coach on the show, the best special guest coach on the show, Uzi, who had the right justified comments and feedback, in my humblest opinion. Unless it's Jaehyun, unless it's Aiki, even though Jaehyun didn't get that much time to provide his own thoughts on the show. Aiki, Uzi, I don't want to hear anything from y'all because I trust those individuals the most. And I've got to admit, Yuri, she was very on and off with her comments and feedback until leading up into the finale. I could somewhat agree with her and all comments after each and every single performance. But this leads back to my main question earlier on. What was the point? What was the point of us voting every single day? And what was the point of going throughout days, hours, weeks on of content, both full episodes and variety, just for B-Lift Labs and Hybe to get their ideal lineup that they wanted pretty much from the very start, everyone? So, honestly, I really thought this ideal lineup, personally by myself here, would have been the dream team for sure. Thinking about the connections, the relationships between Jiwoo, Yuna, and Jimin, how Jimin out of the monthly evaluations has been nailing it and all. Junggeun being on the come up, really still underrated in my humblest opinion leading up into the finale. We've seen what Youngso's capable of in the dance department and how she expresses herself, and Minju, what a vocal tone she has and the approaches that she takes in various songs. Like, she is very flexible in the vocal department and multifaceted at the same time. And by you having Jiwoo and Yuna with leadership like qualities in the mix that are so natural, like, come on, this was so ideal for me. But I've got to admit, I was mixing in Mocha in Jonghyun's place, as well as the likes of Iroha, everyone. So that was my ideal votes. Be sure to let me know your votes in the comment section down below, or your ideal lineup. If it wasn't for Chanel being eliminated, I would have Chanel in here, obviously. If it wasn't for 6 spots only, I would have a 7th spot with Chanel and other trainees, of course. But I actually drew something in Microsoft Paint to really go through and answer the question of what was the point of this show, everyone. Because, like, you doing picking 4 members, top votes from locally, everyone, because it was a 70-30 split that we'll discuss later on. Yeah, okay, survival show, global girl group, okay, 22 trainees, they go through the whole gauntlet, and then it takes this whole wraparound route to the finale. And I just honestly feel like this was mainly due to screen time, right? To screen time test how these trainees would look on the big screen. Buzz, most importantly, to get people interested in this girl group in the first place. And most importantly, the ideal lineup that Hybe wants, so they can, have the monetary benefits, like to figure out, okay, is this girl group gonna sell? Because at the end of the day, unfortunately, with the K-pop scene, it's all about pretty much capitalism and making big bucks at the end of the day. If you'd ask me if there's people in the industry that genuinely do it for the love of music and all, there's not that many people. If we're talking about directors, it really leads up just to, profits and all. I honestly feel like, and like that, you just cannot change my mind. There's only a few. There's not a lot, which is sad to say. And how did this result into? Well, overall waste of time, not only for us viewers, the girls as well, the trainees on this show, the emotion, the mental, the physical, all that. They had to go through all that just because of the ideal lineup that they wanted, everyone. And then it also, at the same time, I feel like at the end result, does not provide any meaning and any purposeful meaning towards Alit, the final girl group coming out of this show, because the amount of backlash that we're seeing and unnecessary hate is going on is really pushing against of everyone who were, let's say, original viewers. You get the point here. People like you and me who were very invested in this show and really wanted to see our favorites make it into the final lineup just be wasted like that, which makes it very hard for us viewers to carry on from this show and to automatically support it after this survival show. So, at the end of the day, they wanted this stuff on the left. This happened on the right. I'm pretty sure they don't care about a rat's butt about what happened here. But honestly, they could have just scrapped this whole survival show idea, created a variety show, or more so a documentary, right? A documentary about their girl group that's gonna debut, instead of us going through this whole mess throughout this survival show, days on, weeks out. you name it, right? So the overall process here was so unnecessary in my humblest opinion. And let's just go back to my thoughts, my original thoughts before going into the finale. There's the can versus the must. Now, you guys must be asking, what do you mean, Garrison? Well, there is the side of can debut, and then there's the must debut. If you think about the likes of Yuna, what she's been through, the 5 years, especially seeing her going into the finale and seeing her herself hoping to be called up right away. I feel like she falls under the must debut, and the likes of Jiwoo, seeing how much she's been through and knowing how the locals over there in Korea even encouraged others not to vote for Jiwoo because she's the oldest on the show. Are you kidding me? 2021 is too old of an age to debut. That's crazy to me. That is crazy to me, all right? Just how the industry and the locals are all up for minors is ridiculous for me. Now, if we're talking about minors and we're talking about, talent in the mix, I feel like that goes under the level of can debut. Can debut is the likes of Won-hee. She's shown improvement throughout several episodes, and thankfully, finally, leading up into the finale, she's been able to express herself more and all, and I've got to admit, in the vocal department, she has it. But just think about it. 2 or 3 more years down the road, she still has time to debut. She's going to be even more sharp cut if you debut her later on or the other, younger minor trainees. And I feel like, especially specifically for Won-hee, she's not going to lose that charm and appeal that we saw from her on this show, or at least that we saw from the locals and the coaches' perspectives of Won-hee, So I just feel like the likes of Won-hee, she can debut, likes of Aurora. She was the best out of the minors, but I wouldn't say necessarily the best out of the more so mature contestants, you know what I'm saying? I'm completely fine with her debuting and Won-hee debuting, but there's the must. Because sadly, this day and age, 19, 20, 21, that could very well mean you not making your debut after a survival show or after trial and error throughout several different labels, everyone. So I feel like that's something that people should really think about all the time, and just think about how things will go with these certain trainees that didn't make it. So more to talk about here is, of course, how they determined the final lineup with votes from round 1 and round 2. Now, round 1, this is how it played out, with Youngso in first place, Minju, Jimin, Yena, Jiwoo, and Iroha in 6th place, everyone. At this point, we see Himina at 10th, Won-hee at 9th, Junggeun at 8th, right? And I feel like automatically right here, this is the lineup that a lot of people preferred, at least on a global standpoint, from the global fans and all. Then we go into round 2, where it changes drastically. Notice how Won-hee goes from 9th all the way to 10th, all the way to 1st, and specifically, the first round was all global votes. Second round had that stupid mix between the label choosing it and the top 2 most voted get into the final lineup automatically, right? And just seeing the 70-30 ratio, who made this up? How can you call this HYBE's next global girl group when you got 70% on the line for South Korea, everyone? That's crazy to me, right? And the fact that you had Jimin at 4th place in, this second round here, leading into her not making it, is crazy to me. What's even more crazy in the mix is seeing Yena this low and Jiwoo this low after the second round of live voting, everyone. So I felt like regardless, we were either gonna get this lineup, right? We were either gonna get this lineup or this lineup at the end of the day, resulting into both undesirable and sour tasting results, knowing how they did the 70% and 30% ratio, which really goes to show you the lack of transparency that occurred into the finale in the show, especially if you saw the evaluations, how the evaluations were conducted leading up to when they had, of course, on-site audience global voting in the mix. Because before that, we had only the coaches in the mix, which really had questionable evaluation at the start of this show. It only got better once we hit episode 4 and onwards, leading up to episode 7, everyone. So just to emphasize it more, right? Like I said, G-Men, 4th place, top 3 global vote, top 4 live vote, placing first in monthly evaluations, and just to be tossed away by the label just like that. That just really goes to show you the greed by these evil executives, directors, the likes of Lee Hyun, who had his ideal lineup and preferred contestant leading into the finale this whole time with unnecessary criticism, the likes of Jiwoo, if I recall correctly, the likes of Minju and all. And just to put, all the decision into their hands. It was so annoying, everyone. It was so frustrating and annoying, which is why I am indifferent about this group. Not because of the trainees, mind you, because of this 70-30 split. So for this group, I know a lot of people were saying, hey, this group has no chemistry. No, I feel like you are wrong, and at the same time, if you're saying that, you weren't paying attention to the show or to the variety that was going on this show. Clearly, I feel like Yena, as being the final member in the group, links everyone together. She has connected with all of these girls, and she has that Tom and Jerry, which is why I drew this up here, Tom and Jerry relationship with none other than Minju. While, of course, we have that connection with Youngso and Mocha, assumingly. And then we know that Iroha and Youngso have that connection. And then last but not least, the likes of Wonhee and Iroha. And I feel like majority to all of the trainees that we saw on this show really liked Wonhee because of her adorableness. I feel like people are writing up things and haven't seen any of the variety of the likes of Jiwoo and Wonhee going to Jiwoo's room, doing her dance, acting all cute for Jiwoo. So I emphasize this more, if you don't know, you don't know. Just don't say anything that is like so nonsense, because the chemistry's here. It's just a matter of what kind of creative direction and music they're going to put out. It's definitely not going to be mature because of the age median, because if they do something like that, we're going to riot and we're going to be all displacement, just how we saw in the early stages and rounds of Are You Next, the likes of heel choreo, the likes of performing My Bag. As much as I wanted to enjoy that performance, it wasn't fitting with the twerking choreo, Wonhee, and everyone in the mix for that performance, everyone. But at least talking about specifically on some positive notes here, everyone, we had really great original music in the finale. Aim High, one of my favorite moments with Jungin in the mix. And of course, Desperate. I preferred this song more than Aim High, just due to the genre and the lyricism. And Jiwoo, so good, everyone. And the fact that the semifinal songs and the finale songs, we don't have it on streaming platforms, which makes me think we're going to have to wait until the debut, unfortunately, which is a crime, in my humblest opinion, because I feel like these trainees who perform these songs deserve their own studio version on all streaming platforms that I can enjoy, instead of me having to go through these performances to remind me of what occurred from this show, everyone. Another positive note, Yann giving her speech as the final member of Outlet, seeing her hyperventilate, tears of joy going across her face and all, running to the trainees who didn't make it. This was a well-deserved moment. The most well-deserved moment on the show at the end of the day, and I think she really deserved it. She's definitely going to be like the leader, main vocalist, one of the main vocalists in the group, but most importantly, the leader in the group, everyone. And then, of course, to leave it on to some hopium and hope, Jiwoo said, "Even though I fell in front of the doors of my dreams, I think this is not the end, and I will continue to be Jiwoo, who can repay you with cooler, better performances in the future. Thank you." And then there was the mentions of family in the mix there, everyone. So ending it on that note, positive result in terms of songs, not so that positive in terms of the final lineup, but the real question is, for me, am I gonna stand this group? Most likely, but I'm gonna be leaving it all up to the variety, the creative, and music direction, most importantly, everyone. I don't want to take anything away from the final contestants, and you guys shouldn't too. I felt like Mocha, she really grew on me during the show. I felt like Iroha, I was supporting her at the very beginning, at the start, and then voting for her once here and there. I feel like Wonhee has grown on me somewhat, but just like every survival show, the likes of Yewon from IZ*ONE grown on me once I got into IZ*ONE after survival show days, and I feel like that's gonna be the same case for Wonhee. Mark my words, some of these trainees who haven't grown on you in terms of your liking could possibly happen when they make their debut and their comebacks. The only concern, like I said, I emphasize this a lot, is how the debut is gonna go. I just need a good song. I don't need something that's gonna be over the top, and I especially don't need a concept that's not gonna be, properly fitting for the group Outlet. It can't be overly mature, because we know the age median and we know how it goes, everyone. So let me know your thoughts about the final lineup. Let me know about your thoughts about Are You Next. I think it's very important to really more so voice everything towards Hybe and B-Lift Labs instead of the trainees, because we shouldn't be taking away anything from L.I.T and the members, and to be, ruining their highlightable moments in their lives and their start of their careers and all. I feel like we should be more open-minded, have our ears open, and be willing to see and hear what's up for this upcoming girl group, everyone. And that's just me. I don't know if that's just me, but I feel like more people should be open-minded when it comes to this. So it's time to move on. I hope we don't get overwhelmingly unnecessary jokes going on and unnecessary hate that's going on. And of course, people mentioning Triple S in the works, and certain contestants like Chanel and Jiwoo, joining Triple S. I feel like when people default to like join P Nation, join this label, and so on and so forth, at the end of the day, it's not necessarily a good thing. Of course, we want to see them debut, but there's also something to keep in mind here. What really sucks to me at the end of the day is that most of these contestants, or over half, will most likely not end up debuting after this show, depending on at what point, of timeline they are in their careers and their lives. And also, I really hope Jiwoo Jihyun, likes of Chanel, especially Funa, right? Jimin, Junggeun, at some point make their debut, leave their mark on the industry and show what's up to B-Lift Labs, okay? Best case scenario out of this is we'll get another HYBE girl group. I highly doubt it. Or, of course, label changes for the likes of Jiwoo, Jimin, etc. So, take care as always, everyone. This has been it for Are You Next and my little tangent and rant and just pure thoughts coming out of my mind after these last 24 hours of, watching the finale of Are You Next. But take care as always. This has been Garrison, and peace.